Don't you just hate it when people put you in a box and they decide that's who you are, that's how you will behave, and that's how you will perform? I must be honest with you, I get the zig myself. Now, the context in which I'm talking about today is obviously when people look at behavior. Like, for instance, we know that you are a D, which is a driver, and we look at the I, which is the influencer. We look at the S, which is the supporter, and we look at the C, that is compliant. Now, one of the mistakes that people make, they say they watch out for the personality bias, because they speak about when people take you and literally put you in a box and think that there's a bias because you force people into a box. Well, it's because people do not understand what you are talking about and really what it's about. So today, I would like to reveal what the difference is. What would it mean to you if I was able to share with you that personality is but part of who you are? It's not just all about personality. In fact, there's three key components that will lead to what we're really talking about. And what if I can help you discover how you can use this in your conventional business, in your network marketing business, in your family and your relationships, that will truly help you understand it, number one, and go to the next level. Great to see you there, Dr. Michelle. Lawrence, all the way from the UK, it's great to have you. And Claudia, also great to see you guys. So give me some love. You know, this is Facebook Live. For those that know me or don't know me, this is Dr. Anthony van Tonder. Live here, I've got a PhD in behavioral skills, and this is why I'm busy sharing this topic with you. Also a PhD in leadership and management, because I really believe that we can use these skills and culminate them and bring them together to take people to the next level. Now, if you're serious about your network marketing business, what you want to do is to take note of the principles today. Have you ever heard of the Pendulum Principle? Because today is about understanding the behavior pendulum. Now, Pendulum Principle started in 1966 by a guy by the name of Christian Huygens. Christian Huygens basically was the inventor of the grandfather clock. Now, I don't know about you. I was lying in my parents' home and one of those old clocks used to go tick, tock, and irritated me immensely while I wanted to sleep. Now, Christian Huygens invented that clock, so thank you to him. But he did an experiment, and he actually had a big clock that was basically standing in his one apartment, and he then had a smaller clock, which in those days you had to wind up the clock, and then the smaller clock would have a faster pendulum, tick, 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 where this bigger clock would have a smaller or a slower pendulum, like tick, tick, tick. And you know what he found? It didn't take longer than 3 to 4 minutes for that clock to be started to be influenced. And then it took an average of 21 minutes for that clock to, you not believe it, come to the same speed. From there, we have the term called entrainment or entrapment. From there was birthed the pendulum principle. Now, you guys know what the pendulum is. And that is literally, if I just hold this pen, if I had to tick it, it'll go left, it'll go right. It'll go left, it'll go right. That's what the pendulum principle is. So what we learned from Christian Huygens is that behavior influences behavior. That's why with the grandfather clock, in terms of that entrainment or that entrapment, you found that the big clock, over a period of time, influenced the smaller clock to eventually have the same oscillation, hence the pendulum principle. Now today, this is key for you and I to understand how this comes into the word is behavior. Because when we speak about who we are, people speak about personality. As you can see, personality is right up here. There's only a certain percentage of who we are. So these three key components, temperament, character, and personality, that forms behavior. If you look carefully, you can see this big pendulum that is over here. I'd like to help you understand today that we are, yes, we are anchored most of the time, but we do pendulum depending on circumstance, depending on the influences, depending on, well, just did you have a good night's sleep? You know the old saying, getting out of bed with a bad mood? That's one of them. Andre, great to have you. Moeder Raaf, my friend. We were friends on Facebook today for I don't know how many years. It's great to have you on as well. So guys, when we talk about behavior, I'm going to then take and unpack a little bit in terms of temperament, character, and personality that forms the whole line called behavior. All three of those are a kind of behavior. So let's unpack that a little bit. What is your temperament? Well, we will find out. What is character? What is personality? Let's start with the one that's in the middle, because obviously the one that's in the middle is the one that is anchored. Character, you know, D.L. Moody said, character is who you are in the dark. You just can't lie about who you are. Like we've always been saying that behavior never lies. Well, D.L. Moody said, character is who you are in the dark, and I believe this is why we can start from this as a point of departure. Because when you look at character, I want to tell you that from a percentage point of view, 70%, as much as 70% of who you and I are is embedded in this middle part of the pendulum, which means most of the time, you and I will basically be in sort of a central position, not swinging way to the outskirts and way to the outskirts. 70% of the time, because why? This is your influenced behavior. This is the way that you were raised. Now, what are influences in our lives? Well, obviously, you grow up with your parents. So your parents will actually start forming that character. We all know there's certain stages of development. If you just look at the development of a baby, stage one is what we call attachment. The baby is attached to the mother's breast, therefore it's called attachment. Then you have the next stage by about 3 years, where we now start seeing that the baby now moves from attachment to identification. Now, the baby will identify, not a baby anymore, 3 years old, with the father. Whereas up until the age of about 3 years old, it's all about the mother. Mother can do nothing wrong, because why? That feeling is there. In fact, there's a chemical that is released called oxytocin through the mother into the baby that gives that bonding, that special bonding. When it now comes to 3 years old and it moves to the next stage that we basically call now, like I've just said, with the father, what happens then? Identification in terms of who am I and who's this other dude? Oh, that must be my dad. He's an authority figure. And it actually plays a role in terms of who you become. Where? Right here, in your character. Because you and I are formed because of the influences in our lives. Tamlin, all the way from England, and it's great to have you, Marley. Welcome here as well, guys. So when we look at character, it's the way you've been influenced. But now we know, we don't just stay in our parents' home. Sometimes you have to leave the front door. I'm talking to those kids that are 25 and 28 and still living in your parents' house. Open the front door and find there's a world out there. You can go places, okay? Tongue in cheek. One thing I can say that we celebrated at the age of 18, my kids were adamant. They wanted their freedom and they were out. So it was a win-win. They were happy. We were happy. Life goes on. Okay. But coming back to character. So now that child goes to basically school. School, they get influenced in terms of the way that they think. The way that actually causes them to behave in certain ways. Have you seen how the one child acts out of character, screams their head off, and soon you find the other kids start screaming. Everybody is screaming because we are influenced, because behavior is part of the component of how we live out our character. So 70% of the time, you and I are here because of the way that we have been influenced. That child then after school, obviously in school, there's peer-to-peer pressure, which obviously happens to be the next stage. And remember I said that from 3 years old, 3 to the age of 7, we basically have the identification with the father. Then the child goes to school, and now we start having comparison and peer pressure that forms who we are. So our character is very much influenced. Now we have external influences that come in. Like what? We start going to church. So now maybe we used to do things in a certain way. We hear something from church and go, I don't like the way that I am. I'd like to be this way. And you and I start adapting in terms of who we are. But 70% of the time, we are anchored here in the middle of this pendulum, and we behave the way that we behave. That's why we call it influenced behavior. Then this pendulum will basically move. Now, the other side is called your temperament. Temperament is sitting over here. 20% of the time, you will come into your temperament part, 20%, because why? You're born in behavior. Now, when you were born, I mean, I always mock and I said, I'm a decent guy. As I was born, I tried to stand up and just say to the nurses, hello there. It's in me. It's in me to have manners. I mean, still up to today, when my wife's in a restaurant, when she comes back to the table, I rise It's born in behavior because I believe to honor the woman in my life. And yes, my woman, you're on here, you deserve it. You are my queen. So the born in behavior is something that's not going to change. In fact, this is what we call your default behavior. You will always default to your temperament. Now, why have I only got 20% up there? Because in terms of our character, you and I have learned to adapt. We've learned to live left foot, right foot, stay in the middle, and we basically approach life that way. But here's the truth. If you're a driver, it means you have a driving kind of style. If you're an influencer, you have an influencing style. If you're an S, you're a supporter. And if you're a C, you are compliant. Now, what happens here is, this is where temperament comes in mostly. When I put you under pressure, it's like a pressure cooker. You can't help it. You know what happens to this driver? I told you, put him under pressure, he becomes difficult. Take this I, put them under pressure, they become impossible. Take the S, put them under pressure, they become stubborn. And the C, what happens to them? They become critical because it's in their temperament. It's born in. Ever heard the term like father, like son? That's exactly what's happening over here. Hey, by the way, where's some hearts here? I'm working my little hiney off here. Give me some hearts. Show me some love, guys. This is Facebook Live. Okay, temperament. 20% of the time. It's your born-in behavior. Then we have to move across. When we look at the next one, and this over here, personality. Personality, obviously, if you look at 70 and 20, I'm going to give you a huge guess for the other percentages. I know with the new pass rate in South Africa, 30%, some of you are going to miss this, but it's actually 10%. Right. What now has happened, now we kick 10% of our time, we come into the personality realm. Personality comes from the word persona. You know what persona really means? It comes from the Latin word mask. It's the mask that you and I put on. I mean, I can be standing here, I might be in adverse pain, but I'm standing here saying, hey guys, I'm feeling great because I've got this mask that I put on. So when your persona says, when you go into that, it's learned behavior, or learned, or ED, learned behavior, or depending on the past and the history. So you basically click into personality mode because it's something that you learned to do. Like some of you have become masters at self-control when somebody insults you because you've decided sticks and stones will break my bones, but words won't hurt me. Because you have said that over and over and over. So when people insult you, you come into this mechanism that basically says to you, you're not going to hurt me. And you just go, so what? Because you are putting on this mask. It's learned behavior. So now let's just summarize so far. We're looking at who are we? Behavior never lies. It's made up out of temperament and character and personality. Born in from birth, you are the way who you are. This is the way that you live 70% of your time, but 10% of the time, you actually learn to adapt. Now, some people use this for manipulation, but I can tell you now that 75% of people do not use this side for manipulation. They do it for survival. So in terms of behavior, you heard the term primary and secondary. Now, you first go to primary school, then you go to secondary school. Now, in your mind, secondary is where you basically graduate to go to university. But primary is the more important word. Why? Because that's where your foundations come from. So your foundation is laid. Secondary is actually because of, this is a result of all the influences. Whereas we find that temperament, that is primary behavior. Now, when we talk about behavior, there's something we call natural behavior and adaptive behavior. Let's just put this into perspective. When I talk about temperament, is it natural or adapted? It actually is natural. Now back to your DISC. Remember, it's natural for the D to want to be in control. It's natural for the D to be the leader. It's natural for the D to become difficult when he doesn't get his way. It's natural for the I to want to influence people because they want to be liked. In fact, they look for recognition all the time. Like, look at me. I'm the solution here. Don't miss me. And it doesn't matter how old you are. Those people stand out. And the S here, they basically, in their primary, it's in their natural behavior. They are the decent people. I call them the salt of the earth people. They're so loyal. And you know what? These people are sometimes loyal to the extent of being abused, because they stand for abuse, because they are so insecure sometimes within themselves that they'll do anything to please that person, even if that person is a boundary violator. I said a while ago, we're going to talk on boundaries sometime. It's coming. And then it's natural for the compliant person to kick into his mechanism primary of being critical on himself first, of I'm not good enough. I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have done that. In fact, one of the things that haunts a person that is in the C category that we call compliant, you regurgitate. You keep on thinking about it. If only I didn't say that. If only I didn't do that. Guys, can you see? You can't put people in boxes. You are who you are, but you live through this pendulum because here you've learned to cope. But when you get your natural behavior, when I put you under pressure, you will default to your primary natural behavior. Now we go to the middle, who you naturally are. This is both. Both natural and both adaptive. This is why I can say, and I've been studying this for more than 20 years, guys. I can say I've studied this, and this is my result. 70% of the time, you and I have learned to oscillate between natural and adaptive, and it's like an AC/DC plug. We get it right. But what happens 10% of the time? This here is only what we call adapted behavior. Adapted. You and I have adapted to cope. I mean, if you're in an environment where people mock each other, you've adapted to make as if it doesn't matter. And they actually basically insult you and you go, I don't care. But you know what? Deep on the inside, it's only because you learned behavior that you're able to cope, because behavior is now under control. But if I put you under pressure and I got you one-to-one in a little corner, I said to you, be real with me. Do you like it when people mock you like that all the time? Of course not. You've just learned to put on the mask because you don't want to get hurt further. But here's the problem. You do that and you're swallowing the hurt. Now, especially if you are in the S category, that is one of the ways. It's a propensity with you to swallow it, and it goes on the inside, and you feel more hurt. But you are sullen about it, you're quiet about it. The other person that battles that hurt happens to be a compliant person, but they're quiet. So both these two, the S and the C, if I put them together, these are the two people who quietly live and suffer in pain. But the other person, if they have this pain, that you see it come out, they can't hide it, it's the influencer. The influencer wear the emotions on their sleeve. They will immediately tell you that something is wrong. So that is the difference. Behavior never lies. But you also now remember, you are a combination of either a DI or a DC. Very, very seldom we find a person that's across the spectrum like a DS. Very, very seldom, but we do find them. But we all are combinations of these four behavioral styles. They're not personalities. They're not characters. They're not temperaments. All three of those, the temperament, the character, the personality, form your behavioral style. That's who you are. So I really hope that you can understand today when I talk about the behavioral pendulum, that you will know why do you and I all the time pendulum between these, because it depends on the situation. How much are you in control? How well skilled are you? How well versed are you? Let's talk about the network marketing business. You know, they say that your charisma cannot take you where your character can't keep you. You can sign people into the business. You can tell them, I am the best of the best. I'm going to be looking after you. In fact, I'm going to build your business for you. But you're lying to them. It's not possible, because the moment you've got 200 people, how on earth are you going to do that? But you see, that's the charisma in the beginning, because the network marketing, you bring the hype to it because you see other people do it now, you think it works. I want to tell you one thing, stay true to your character, be there and don't move out of it, be who you are. Now, obviously, when it comes to, let's say, network marketing, the approaches of the D and the I and the SSC are so much different. The D is very direct, because why? They want results. The I, well, they are very friendly, because they're friendly and optimistic, like, hey, this is going to be great. How does the S come? Very toned down, but they bring that friendship and relationship into it. And alas, what does Mr. Compliant do? He comes with the rules, and he just says, in paragraph 2, subparagraph 1, it says the following. This person wants to do things the right way. In fact, when it comes to network marketing, normally the compliant person is the person who comes into it last. Why? They want to first learn how to do it perfectly, and then they come and do it. So hopefully through all of this coaching and this teaching, we get to a place where you understand who you are and start subliminally realizing why are you doing, and saying what you're saying in different circumstances. So now you have, it was born in your temperament, this is influenced and this is learned. Primary, secondary, because this is your foundation, the way you are set up. But guys, what I want to get to today are the 3 P's. The 3 P's that's going to change the way that you approach your situation through behavior. Because you need to understand why are you doing what you're doing. So I'm going to start in the middle, because in the middle, this is really, in a sort, your anchor. So this will be your position. So this is the P for position. In behavior, in the pendulum, you've decided to take a centralized position in terms of how you act, how you speak, and what you do. Now, I just gave an example for you in the network marketing business. What about the normal conventional business? Exactly the same. Because people are people. And people have these styles and they manifest and you see them. Now, I mustn't mix this up with manifestation in the wrong way, because that's something else. Just the way that they are. Okay? So this is the way that you position yourself. That means the way that you anchor yourself. This is how you try and stay on track with who you are. Now, for instance, if you happen to be a C and a D combined, what does it say about you? You can't help it. You think task focused. You are task focused. You can't help thinking about the people. You want to make sure that when you attack that task, that you want to do it right. The only difference is that the D can do many tasks quickly. And the difference is that the compliant does tasks with quality. Say slower maybe, takes longer to execute it, but he does a thorough job. And now don't get me wrong, I'm not saying these guys don't do a thorough job, they just do it quicker. But they sometimes do it 70% and think it's good enough. It's just the way they are. Okay, so that's when in a conventional business. Let's take these 2 people, well, the I's and the S's. They are people orientated. Okay, the influencer and the supporter. They are people. The influencer loves a lot of people. Say, come to me, baby. Oh, this is going to be so much fun. They will have, their arms will be flying and their faces will have expression. Okay? You can see them a mile away. And if they smile, it's not just smile, it's smile. Here I am. Okay? Like, man, they bring fun into the house. And the S, they like to be with people one-on-one. They like to form relationships. So the way, even in conventional business, you are who you are. And if you basically are an IS, you'll always default to caring for the people first, then doing what you're supposed to do. If somebody accidentally stubs a toe, sorry, Tam, I'm just thinking of you. Whenever I stub my toe, my daughter Tamlin in the UK, I say, Tamlin! Because she used to stub her toe, and basically I inherited it from her. Every now and then I stub her toe. So if somebody's in the office, stubs a toe and goes, ah! The D just goes like, stop acting. But the I and the S go like, ooh, the I goes, oh no, geez, you look terrible. Shame, you must be so ashamed that you humiliated yourself in front of all these people. And the S will come and say, oh, shame. What went wrong? Did you not see it? And the caring thing will come out. And the compliant will say like, maybe your toes are too long. Maybe you should actually have more space between you and the door when you walk in. They'll start analyzing the facts. Guys, we are who we are. Just take it for what it is. So back to the character, its position. What is the dead giveaway when we get to temperament? Temperament here, this is the following. You just want to protect. You default to this behavior because this is the way that you protect yourself. Guys, this was profound when I found it out the first time. When I realized it is true that I literally default to protecting myself. And the moment I protect myself, that strong person comes out. Eleni, it's great to see you all the way from Zimbabwe. Thank you for the love. I really appreciate it. So I had to realize it's just myself protecting myself, which means other people go like, is he really like that? Well, it means it's my born-in behavior that is kicked in, and I just cannot put on a mask because that's who I am. For instance, if I'm walking in the street and somebody had to hit me on the head, you know what will happen? I'll walk in the street, they'll hit me on the head, and I'll go, poof! Because you know what? The instructor in me is there. The old karate guy is in there. I will hit without even asking a question. It's born in that I am a reactor. But I can tell you now, if the person is an S, same person, walks down the street, they clip you on the head, what do? Hey, what was that for? Yeah, it's born in. To be slower, they respond, they don't react. So when it comes to conflict resolution today, it's not about conflict resolution. This plays a vital key. You can see the D's and the I's. Their conflict management is way different than the S and the C's. We'll talk about this some other day. Because I need to go here where you want to know, because I know you're dying for me to study this last P. Because I told you that the 3 P's today will change your paradigm to understand behavior. So in temperament, it's all about protecting yourself. In character, where your anchor is, it's about the position that you take. What do you think that P will stand for? Remember, persona is the mask. Come on, you're going to get this. 3, 10. Exactly. We pretend over there. It's not the way that you and I live every day. We fake it to make it. That's what we do. And this is where it now all comes together. If you now look at this entire pendulum from the left to the right, can you see how you will stay 70% of the time true to yourself, your true north? But there will be circumstances that will take you out of your comfort zone and will get you the situation on your temperament where the real you will kick in and you can't hide it. And like I say, the Johnny Cougar me comes up. I take you out, man. Over here, because I've learned to control myself in certain situations, and I'll tell you one thing. The one thing is when people insult me, that's fine. Here I've learned to control myself. And I've learned not to take it personal because, hey, I know who I am. This is a bit of a tip. If you know who you are, they can say whatever they want. However, there is a part in me that immediately takes me from here to that side. And know what that is? If you accuse me falsely of something that I didn't do. Why? Because my personal value system is linked to injustice. If you bring an injustice across me, I can try and be Mr. Nice Guy. I can tell you I swing from this side all the way back. I come here to temperament and the real me comes out because that's born in. I do not deal with injustice very well. And that is my learning. That is my learning curve. So as I'm taking this teaching today, and I help you understand, number one, don't let people put you in a box. You can basically choose to behave. I don't care if you can be the most solid little S in the world. If you have to take a leadership position, all of a sudden you can stand up and you can talk and you can speak for yourself. But you know what? You won't be comfortable doing that all the time because that's not who you are. Because you are who you are. We basically go through this pendulum. We move through the DISC in terms of being who we are and living the other positions we call, go and camp in the other positions. I mean, for instance, when I have to counsel, you now know, I mean, when I put my hands together, I normally go like that. I have a proper, because why? It's a dead giveaway. I'm a driver. Now, there's a real punch in it. But the moment I have to help you, I literally chill down, slow down my speed, slow down how I speak, put on my smile, nod my head, and I become into counselor mode because that's how I get the best results of people not being threatened when I am in my posture mode, because I do have a strong posture. So guys, when it comes to behavior, please understand that the pendulum of behavior, if you can understand, behavior is made up out of these 3 things: temperament and character and personality. And that total sum summarizes who you become in your behavior. And never forget, behavior never lies.